Welcome back to PodX. Our guest for today is Naief Memon. Naief is someone who hugely inspires me. Naief is the founder and managing director at Memco Consultancy. Memco Consultancy is a firm that works with some of the biggest companies in India. In addition to that, Naief also provides guidance at Nofiltr Group, which is one of India's biggest social media agencies. To escalate his learnings, Naief interned and worked at multiple companies prior to starting his own ventures. And I'm very excited to learn from him, to have him over here, to have these beautiful conversations with him. So, Naif, thank you so much for being a part.
Very welcome. I'm really excited to start this.
Okay, I wanted to start off directly. I'm going to dive in directly. I don't know if you've been asked these questions previously or no, but why do you intern and work at so many companies before starting your own venture? What do you think had a role to it? What impact did it have?
So it's really strange. I've always been really fascinated with technology as a kid. So I think when I was in my 8th or 9th grade, a friend who actually happened to own a telecom company at that point, his mom offered me a chance to intern at their firm. So that's how my entire career, I would say, started in terms of getting known to and getting the what do you call it? Getting the experience from the world around. And I started interning at one of the companies and saw how everything functions, and that's where it all began. And since then, I've always been more inclined to working than rather studying. I was not like a extremely intelligent kid, like book wise. Like I would not get really good grades, but in terms of understanding the matter and understanding what's happening and the material, etc. Like logically, I would understand everything, but if you told me to write it down, I'm really bad at it.
But
That's how it all began.
Do you think working under other people and learning that craft that way was what helped you build the company that it is today? Or if you would have just learned from a textbook, it would have been different? Or what would it have been like? Like, what's the impact of interning?
I honestly feel it's much like education is obviously important because you need to know how to read, write. And if you're into certain fields, obviously you need to know how to solve problems. If you're into the IT sector or if you're into doing something in science, obviously you need to study and understand those things. But for me, I was more of a business guy and my mind worked. It was just like every time while I was working, I was studying as well. And everything I learned with those textbooks is like, oh, I can relate to it at work because I've already, implemented those similar things, what is being taught to me, but I just have like something which is being put on a book and I have to read and understand now. So that's how it is.
I had this like really amazing experience when I was interning for my first internship. I was actually interning at a company that hosts all these stand-up comedy shows across the country. And one of the shows, basically, I was a part of like the curating team. And what happened was there was no alcohol was supposed to be allowed in the hall during the show. And I came across one person who brought in alcohol and he was consuming it. So I went up to that person and said, "Sir, alcohol isn't allowed. Please could you go outside?" And he was like, no, he wouldn't do it. So he was laughing at me. And obviously, because of my age, I was very afraid at that time. I was like, I think 15 or 16. And then I called up a senior who was over there on the spot over there. And I called him. And that person, I noticed that he spoke very kindly. And at the same time, he was very firm, which had a completely different impact. He just went and said, "Sir, could you please go outside and consume your alcohol or leave your bottles outside? It's not allowed in the show. Else I will have to call security." And that was, in a way, was nice and it was firm at the same time. And that person immediately went out. And that's what I kind of, picked up that part that, you need to be firm in your tone when you need to be. And you can also be like kind at the same time and be nice. And I think those are like one of the few things that I picked up from him over there, like interning at that part.
So, see, I always loved working under someone because you tend to understand and see how other people function. So you may look at a problem and you may want to solve it in a certain way. But when you work in a team or you work under someone, you actually get a chance to understand and see how other minds work and how they apply their logic. It's like, if it's a small thing, it's like if your remote's broken, for example, or if your remote's not working, what would you do? You would open it up, change the batteries, etc. Like that's something which I would do, for example. Other people would be like, open it up, take the batteries, rub it in their hand, recharge it in some other way, like by providing heat, put it back in. So it's like people doing different things and using this to solve the same problem, but there are like so many minds and there's so many different ways to solve those problems. So you always learn and then you adapt and understand those ways and then you apply them in your life. That's why I always loved working under someone or with someone, because you tend to see more and understand more instead of it just being you. And now when you're running your own business, you're just like thinking, oh, if this is what I'm thinking, what would that guy be thinking at that point? Or what does X person think? And, try and put those things into your life and then try to solve problems that way. So I always feel when you start off, at least you should work with multiple people, see how the world is. It opens your eyes, because some people are just like, oh, I'm going to start my own business, but you've not seen reality. You've not seen how things work. Because if you have employees, you need to know how to treat them as well, right? Today, if my boss treated me badly, I know how it feels to be an employee. So I would not, treat my employees in that way, or making a work environment safer for women, or, all of those things you see and you learn. And that's very, very, very important, according to me. So you learn a lot from working with people and working under people.
I think that's like the really beautiful part about internships, and it's the fun part, I would say. But what made you feel that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
It's nothing that made me feel. It's just life. It's just like you get an opportunity and you grab it. And after a point, when you're doing things, you get bored of it. Or if you're working, travel, blah, blah, blah. There's so many different things, the environment. And when you see that, array, why should I be working with someone now when I can do this? Oh, it's just like X person has called me, hey, Naief, can you help me with this? And if I'm able to help that one person, then another person calls me. If I'm able to help the second person with the same thing, I'm like, oh shit, I'm good at this. Why can't I start something on my own? And that's how all these ideas begin. And you just keep thinking, and you have so many different things that come up, and you just want to implement those things. And that's how you start off. And when entrepreneur is just a word, it's just like you hustling and bustling in life.
That was like my next question. Like, how do you come across an idea and how do you execute on it? Like, is there like a process of writing it down, or what do you do?
I don't think so. It's just, I am not that much of a writer. Everything's in my head. My accounts are in my head. I hate taking notes. Like me, I do take notes because if I have to, but for me, I don't know. It just, something comes in your head and you're like, isko kaisa solve karna hai? Ye kaisa karenge? Then you pick up the phone, call up 10 people. Array, this, go on. Now, obviously, Google and etc. is available really easily. You just go use those platforms, learn, understand, read about those things. And I read a lot of online articles. I read a lot of articles about business, companies. Every morning, I'll be reading at least half an hour to 1 hour. Like I sit on, read newspapers and understand the world. And when you read so much and there is so much information in your head, it's not difficult to implement things. You just like understand, I feel. After a point, like for me, I just think about something. I'm like, this guy has done it. How did he do it? What are the ways to do it? Like, you go online, research, start.
Also speak about ideas, like the part where you said reading articles and all. In fact, when I read a lot of these articles, there are so many ideas which come into my mind. Like I can maybe tweak. There are companies that are doing well in the Western world, so I can say maybe we can tweak these ideas to something that would be, proper for our country, or we can make certain changes. Correct. And I feel reading all these articles and all that stuff, it just gives me a lot of openness and a different mindset where I can see different perspectives of the world and I can see what's happening around. And I think that's one of the most fascinating parts, what I enjoy about reading articles.
Articles, they open you up because, see, you're reading from someone else's perspective, right? So for the similar topic, right, for example, right now, you see how the media is in the current state. If you open NDTV will talk about the same issue, but in a different way. If you open Republic will talk about the same issue in a very different way. If you open another channel, they'll talk. So it's like opinions of a lot of people, and that's the information you take in. And then you think about it, and then you see all those things, and you're like, okay, what is the actual fact? Is this true? Is it not true? You apply your own mind. Today, there's so much rubbish online in terms of articles, WhatsApp forwards, etc. You have to put your mind to it, right? You need to understand what is right, what is wrong. You need to do more research. If tomorrow says X person killed someone, if you Google it, you'll find 5 articles saying, oh, this person didn't kill, he was doing it in self-defense, or he did it in this way. There are multiple stories to the same topic, and that's what I love. That's what I love about reading online, because you get to read from different people's perspective, and then you get to apply your own brain and say, okay, I feel this guy is right or this guy is wrong, or this could be the actual truth behind it.
Wait, okay,
Today
I'm going
they
a
may
bit
talk about
away.
celebs.
Wait, I'm going away a bit different from the business side to like this part. What I wanted to ask you, like, like you said, there are so many articles, people are putting out their perspective and different parts of their point of views and all that stuff. How do you know what's right and what's wrong? And how do you because there is a lot of fake news happening and all also. So how do you filter it out? How would you say?
So I see, normally what I do is there is a propaganda. Normally, there is always a propaganda channel. So you see the propaganda channel, then you see the other channels. If you see 10 people writing rubbish, you understand. So today, if you see the entire case about a celebrity's son, for example, as per the law clearly states if you don't find anything on the person, whatever that thing is, you cannot be put behind bars. Correct? That's what the NDPS law states. But before the judgments come out, before everything's come out, there are some channels labeling some people as drug addicts, sellers, peddlers, international racketeers. Now you read about the NDPS Act, right? Today, if someone is saying this, now for me, what I will do is, okay, this person got caught. This person had nothing on him. What does the law state? You go read about the law. The law clearly states if there is nothing found on you, they cannot firstly arrest you. They cannot go through your phone unless they have an order, blah, blah, blah. Correct? There are a lot of things. You can't just pick up. You can't just, if I see you on the road, if I'm a police officer, or I'm raiding the place, I can't just take your phone and read your personal conversations. Correct?
Correct.
There is a law towards it. You can't just say, oh, these personal conversations, you're supposed to be into. If today I say, hey bro, I dropped the stuff to your house. Now the stuff may be clothes, it may be drugs, it may be money, it may be water, it may be iPhone, Pepsi, whatever it is. Now it's for that person who's reading the thing and saying, oh, stuff, oh, you were talking about drugs. So you need to read, then you read the law, then you think about it logically, what's happening. Today there's multiple tons and tons of drugs being caught in other places. No one is talking about it. But the media is talking about one individual who's 25 years old, who's caught with nothing. So this is how you interpret things, and then that's how I see this is fake news and this is not fake news. I will hear from it, read, watch from all the platforms, and then I will read the law. I will read the story behind it. I'll see the documentation which is there, what is available in the public domain, and then I come across and say, okay, fine, this guy is. Maybe he's not innocent. He may have consumed it, for example. But as per the law, you cannot say that he's an international drug trafficker, or he can be put in for X amount of days, or you can't label someone as XYZ like how the Indian media does nowadays. Not Indian media, world media, but yeah, that's what I do. I read a lot, I compare all the notes, and then I do my own research, and then I come to a conclusion saying this is right, this is wrong. And I may be wrong at that time, but as per the evidence, the material in front of me, that's what my decision is based on.
I think that's the biggest challenge for our generation and the generations to come, where I feel a lot of it, people were saying that there's free media and all, but I feel it's still going to be a lot more controlled. like you said that there's like they're putting out half information or false information. Like half information is actually completely false information. There's like a quote, I think, which means something like that. So I think what media companies in our country and across the globe also need to do is like putting out the correct and right information and everything about it. So that's going to be a challenge for like the generations to come. Also, I would feel.
See, the thing is, the problem is, I don't see any free media anymore. There may be a certain in not in our country only, all around the world. They are all controlled by certain corporates, governmental pressures, and money. Media, there's a lot of money. How do media channels work? They work with advertisements, correct? The main source of revenue is advertisements. They don't make money from your channel subscriptions. Half of them are free channels. They're FTA, free to air channels. So they're not making money in terms of getting anything from you paying Tata Sky and Tata Sky giving them 5 rupees or 6 rupees for a channel. Half of them are FTA channels. They'll get zero money. So how do they run? They run on TRPs. TRPs decide how much money they're going to get from the advertiser, sorry, and that's how they run. To get people to watch those channels, they need to add masala. If I start showing a story where, oh, this farmer boy had died because this farmer's son was caught with drugs, for example, who's going to watch it? But when I say a superstar's son is caught with drugs, everyone's going to go, right? Oh, watch. I'm live outside. I'm following this one star. I'm doing this. I'm shouting on TV. I've got 20 people in my debate. I'm abusing all my people. I don't give anyone a talk chance. That's what people like nowadays. So that's what sells. And it's all controlled by certain entities around the world. And it's not only India, it's around the world. Media is controlled, whether it's the US, whether it's India, whether it's Russia, China, Pakistan, any country. It's all controlled because you have journalists, correct? They have a family. They have to either feed their family or stay alive for their family. Or stay available for their family and not in jail. So there's a lot of ways to control those things.
But
it's very hard to say free media exists.
Do you think coming off the social media age and a lot of people starting their own blogs, will that make a change?
See, at the end of the day, with the new laws coming in, especially maybe in India, or maybe how China is controlling, or maybe Russia, or basically they're trying to curb the free speech, right? Because today, if you say something, there is nothing that protects you from legal action. If you point a finger at someone today, maybe you think, oh, because you may have 10,000 subscribers and you're young right now, for example. You may do it in Josh, karo main karne wala, I'm going to be clean. Tomorrow, when they put a case against you, you get picked up from your house, you're in jail for a month, 30 days, 20 days. What is a person going to think then? No? Like, chodo, what is it worth? Correct? Same thing is happening with social media. Twitter people have been picked up across the world. Twitter has been blocked across, for example, in Saudi Arabia, Russia, China. There's no free speech. So I don't think with more and more technology that comes out, more and more people are going to be tracking you, more and more people are going to be watching what you say. And every single thing you say on a digital platform, same thing for me right now, what I'm saying, can be used against you in the future.
So yeah, I mean, there was like
used against you in the future, or to control you as well. Sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, I mean, there was like a similar thing. I think it's also because of these hard-fisted ideas that people have in their head already, that this is something and everyone should believe it. Like a couple of months back, there was also a comedian who went to jail for something he never said really. And I don't know if you heard that news also, but he was sent to jail for something he never really said. And then afterwards, he was left out and all that stuff. But he also faced a lot of challenges at that time. So yeah.
That's how it is, right? Today, I say something on Twitter, you take that same tweet, edit it, forward it on WhatsApp, and then Twitter handle stays the same, name stays the same. When WhatsApp, you can add whatever bullshit you want, keep forwarding it. He'll reach some guy who's like a psychopath and he has nothing else to do. He's like, chalo, main jaake is pe FIR karuga. Once the FIR is done, till the time you get arrested, you have to go to court, you have to go and squash that FIR. It is a process, and people especially in India, the legal system is not that easy and maneuverable. Today, for a person like me to go to court, get something, forget about that. It's a waste of our resources. A country like India, we have so many pending cases, and these stupid cases are being put forward where people, murderers, etc., are still under trial. And stupid cases like this are being put. People are getting earrings, people are getting bail earrings. It's dumb. You're wasting, India is wasting their resources. And similarly around the world as well. Some countries are worse than India. People don't even get a hearing. At least in India, we have a court system which works. In certain countries, there is completely controlled. For example, a certain countries, individuals right now, citizens, were kept in custody by because another country had arrested another citizen of their country in actual legal charges, and there was a barter done to release the people. So, at least in India, we have a little clear system. Karke, yeah, it takes time, but it's there. You will get judgment, but in other countries, it's much worse.
I really
So
hope that
it will it
changes
will it
in
will
the.
it. I hope to, but it does stop, and it does cause a problem to youngsters who want to make that change. If you control it so much, it's like North Korea, for example. There may be 1,000 or millions of people who want to make a change, but today the threat of their family dying, themselves dying, it scares them from not coming up.
I think it's going to be like a challenge for the next generation politicians. I think who would have to come into place and bring about these changes and remove such controlling laws. I feel if that happens,
I hope
and then
so.
I think that's the only way for
I
the country to move forward. I would feel.
I hope so. I hope there is a rule in India where you bar people of 45 or 50 maybe from contesting. So you have the younger generation, because people need to be aware of, you know, what's happening around. Because if you have a 70-year-old, he doesn't understand what a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you know. So I feel like the age and generation gap should be reduced, where you keep a certain percentage of MPs or you keep a certain percentage of MLA seats in every state election reserved, like how you have reserved for quotas for backward classes or reserved for females. You have it reserved for people who are under the age of 45 or 30, or, so that once the younger blood comes into the system, see, there is a lot of money which entices them, but they do want to make a change as well. They will want money, but they will want to make that change. So they will think, "मैं पैसा खाऊंगा, मगर I will do it in the right way. If I have to, take money and make a school, but at least I'll make it the school which is an international standard, and I'll make more money out of it. I won't make 10 cheap schools. So that is the mentality we need. Corruption is a very difficult thing. Today we think India is corrupt, but that's not true. Worldwide, all countries are corrupt. The only thing is you don't see it that much. In India, it's on the lower level till the top level. In other countries, it's on the top level, because the lower level people don't have any power. That is the difference.
I was like reading about this thing also. There are a lot. I was actually hearing about this. I heard a podcast, and there are like a lot of these YouTubers nowadays. There's one who hosts another podcast and all. And basically, what he also plans on doing is maybe probably at 30, 35, he wants to get into the politics system because he wants to bring about change within the country. And, like you said, bring the country to international standards, producing good quality schools, good quality education, good quality hospitals, and improving the whole country as a whole, like bringing new changes in. So I think like like you said, the new fresh blood, when we come into power, like when that happens, I think if obviously if we are not so corrupt, and then there'll be like more changes coming in.
I hope, see, corruption is a part of the system. You cannot take it out. There has to be a certain percentage which will be corrupt. So if you say I'm going to have zero corruption, it's an impossible task. In certain countries, it may be possible. I'm saying with India, with the population that we have, it's going to be very difficult, because elections today, for example, if you see, there's a fund which is allowed. You're allowed to have a fund which you're allowed to spend. Spending budgets are there. I think it's 30 lakhs, if I'm not wrong, 30 or 50 lakhs. You cannot spend 30 lakhs and win an election today. The amount of money which is spent on social media, the amount of money which is spent on getting voters, maybe buying voters, arranging for buses, cars, it's expensive. It's like 8, 10, 15 crores. I've got so many MLAs who are my friends. Like I know how expensive it is to fight an election. So it is impossible for a person to fight an election at those budgets. So how do they make the money? How do they get the money? They do it by doing favors to the friends who've contributed. They pay. So it's a full system. The only thing I feel is what we could do is we could educate, we could improve the standard of living. So tomorrow, for example, a Havaldar who's paid 15,000 or 20,000 rupees a month gets payment of 50,000 rupees a month. He'll also think twice. He'll be like, "Chodo na meko ke I've got the money. I rather give it to the government or set up a commission system." So there is a way of, instead of him taking the 100 rupees, he'll be like, "Okay, fine, mujhe 20 rupees milta hai. Government takes the 100, but I will do my job a little better to earn that 100. I'll catch 5 more people." You see, that is what my understanding is. So you make a system in such a way where you don't say no to corruption, because if you go and say no to corruption and tell the person, "I'm going to give you 10,000 rupees salary, but you can't be corrupt," he is going to say, "Are you stupid? Because I cannot run a house in 10,000 rupees." So he is going to be corrupt. But if you make a system where they're like, "Okay, 10,000 is your base salary, whatever incentives," for example, if the traffic havaldar, you catch 10 people, for every 500 rupees or whatever worth of challan you cut off, you get 10%, 50 rupees. So he'll be like, "Okay, fine." He says 10 people. He'll be like, instead of catching that one poor guy and taking 1,000 rupees or 500 rupees from him to let him go, he'll catch 10 people. He'll be like, "Oh, this guy is not wearing a helmet. This guy's number plate is wrong. This guy is not switched on his headlight. He's honking in the wrong area." So, those guys will be also incentivized to do better work. That is what I feel. That is how the system should be made. You educate the people so they know what they're doing. They understand, okay, this is good for my kids. This is what's good for my country. This is how the country is going to work. And then you give them a system where they make money and the government makes money. So you're incentivizing them as well as to do good work. So that is how I believe we can make the change, and the youth is going to play a big role in that.
I hope my generation does that. I wanted to come back to like the part of entrepreneurship. So I wanted to ask you this thing: how does the process work? Of how do you know if you want to find the right co-founder? If you found the right co-founder, how do you go out looking for a co-founder?
Oh, I'm the wrong person you're asking, because co-founder, see, honestly, I trust people. Like in most of the ventures which I do as well, I am not commercially inclined to them. So I am very, I believe in people. If I see someone and I see them putting their hard work and dedication to doing things and having the same mindset as me and the same goals, that's what I feel a co-founder is. Need to have trust. You need to trust in the guy. You need to believe that he and you can achieve the same goals that you set out. That's what I believe in. And whichever other people I work with, and those are the things like, but see, at a time, you need to see who has the set of skills as well. I may be good at one thing, he may be good at the other thing. So that's when you gel together. I cannot be good at all the things and he cannot be good at all the things, and you're going to clash. Today, if I'm a finance guy, for example, he's a finance guy, I say, "I didn't know the way you run the thing." Be like, "No, this." So you should have your own ways of dividing the work and be good at those things so that you don't clash. And you should quite clear from the start. This is the money. This is the percentage for how much you're making. These are your ways of doing things. This is what you're going to handle. This is what I'm going to handle. Simple. So I think that's the entire process. But in my case, I normally, when I trust someone, I always try to work with them.
Okay, two counter questions. Firstly, how does one build trust with someone, like on a very, very deep and strong level? And secondly, not with regards to a co-founder, but when you're like, hiring someone or when you're looking for someone new, what do you look at in the first thing? What do you look for in a person?
The first question was, how do you learn to trust someone, right?
Yeah.
How do you build trust?
Okay.
It is the person's skill. Like if you feel that this guy is actually, I don't know, it just happens to come to you. It's just like you meet someone, you sit with someone, discuss things, you meet them multiple times, and you're like, chalo, you can trust this guy. That's how it may be a bad thing for me as well. I intend to trust people really soon, but that's how I trust someone, and that's how it's easy for people to build trust with me as well, because I'm completely open. You come and ask me, I'll joke around, I'll be direct to the person. And I feel
Could I add anything
people
to
who
that? Like,
yeah.
so like you said, being open and all that stuff. I think that's a similar thing which I do a lot, which has I think really helped me build trust. Which is when you're even having a conversation with someone, what I've noticed is if you give them a part of yourself, if you open up about something about your life, then they feel, oh, this person is already trusting me with such an important thing about his life, his story, and all that stuff. So then they will open up a part about themselves, and I feel that is how it gets escalated when you both because I feel I've always been on the side where I open up first. I don't know why. Even if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I can always talk to them about things. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing in the long run, but I have been a very open book. And that has allowed me to build trust on a very deeper level, I would say, with other people.
I tend to do the same, but like trusting, opening up about things. And see, I always believe you should never discuss your weaknesses with people, unless like it's like your family or someone really, really close to you. Even though you may trust someone and believe in that person, whoever it is, tomorrow it can come back haunting you if you've shared your weaknesses with someone. Because whether it's a business colleague, girlfriend, whoever it is, share things which you feel that tomorrow if someone can't use it against you. Make sure that it should not be of a disadvantage to you. Don't get too emotional. That's what I feel. Emotionally sharing too much and giving out too much information. It's always bad to give out too much information. Give information, but you should be the one who has the information. It should not be given out to everyone for free. Then what is the difference between you and him? You guys both know the same thing then. And this is, I'm talking about people in general, not like your family or people who you are really, really close to. Obviously give them good advice and, take care of them. But I'm saying meeting a random person and going all out, I feel can be a bad thing as well. People can take advantage of you. How do you know their story is true and not your story? Meaning they are just trying to get inside the system. So sharing stories which can be used against you, I feel it's a little risky. But in terms of gaining trust from someone, I don't, meaning you just trust them. It just, as there's one time it just clicks and like, I trust this person, let's give it a shot. It's like gambling. You cannot even if you trust someone 100%, you don't know if you're going to get it back or not. Like the guy may screw you over in any case, how much ever you trust someone. So that's always the case.
Yeah, I think that's something which I need to learn about. Like you said, about not revealing my weaknesses and all. So yeah, I think that's something which I need to work on, I feel. But yeah.
Yeah, you should, because share things to a limit. Don't share too much. Tomorrow you don't know, even if you're trusting the person, tomorrow you don't know who they are, what they can do, how they use that information against you. So that's something which you should always be careful about.
And the other question which I asked you was about what do you look for when you're hiring a candidate? What is the one thing that stands out? How do you what is the one thing you look for in them?
I honestly don't hire anyone. But a set of skills, I would say, which, for example, if I'm looking for a certain type of job, then see the past experience, see how they do, ask them the questions. Aata hai ki nahi aata hai. If you're understanding the concept, visualize the concept with them, get them to read it aloud to you and say, give them a situation, and that's what I feel. But I normally don't get involved, and that's always looked after by people around me.
About your journey being an entrepreneur. You can continue. No, you can continue.
No, it's not. No, it's
okay, so I was saying, being in your journey in the entrepreneur, obviously you might have faced challenging times that have made you feel very low and all. So how did you did you feel at times worth giving up, or how did you continue working hard and not giving up? And what were these situations like?
you do feel like giving up a lot of times. There are times where you're like, oh shit, what the hell has happened? You messed up on a deal without it being your fault. Especially the work I do is like, as I said, trust. You can't trust anyone because tomorrow it's got such high stakes involved that it just takes a second for someone to get more money to switch over. And when you're consulting someone in government affairs and stuff, government work, as I said, uh, anything can happen at any time. So in terms of what do you say? I'm completely lost right now. What was I saying? I completely forgot. Uh, we were discussing about. Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
So I was saying, when you feel like quitting, there are challenges and hard times,
Yeah,
and you feel
quitting.
like
Sorry.
quitting.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Getting back to that. So as I said, you cannot trust someone, and when you reach a point where you're like, I want to give up. I can't continue this. You're just like thinking, I've got bills to pay. I've got to take care of myself. I need to live a lifestyle. And then you're like, do you want to be that quitter? Do you want to be someone, you can't show that face to people, right? You need to get up, make the calls, try and find something new so that your life comes back up. So that is extremely important. I feel like every time you feel like quitting, uh, give it, sleep over it, wake up the next day, and just be like, what has happened in the past is happening in the past. You cannot change that. What you can change is what is in the present and in the future, correct? So you go work towards those things. And you work harder because you're just like, tomorrow, if I make a huge loss, I know I've got to pay bills. I know I have got to live my lifestyle. I know I need to buy these things. I need to do this. I need to, be there. So I know I have to work hard. So you tend to work hard and you tend to do it yourself. And that's very important. And that's the difference between an entrepreneur and someone who has a job. Because when you lose your job, then the only thing you're thinking about is getting a job, getting a job, getting a job. You're going interviews. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, like, okay, fine, chalo, ye kaam nahi chal raha hai. I thought about this thing. Let's start this one tomorrow.
And what do you think has the role of persistence played in your life?
Role of? Sorry?
Persistence. Persistence.
Oh, persistence. No, so basically you have to be like, you cannot give up. You have to wake up and keep working hard again and again and again. And you have to be persistent. You cannot like just put your hands up and say, if today I have one deal which has gone through and I'm made a lot of money, I can't just put my hands up and say, okay, chalo, ho gaya, khatam ho gaya. You need to wake up the next day and be like, okay, this is how do I make that into double? How do I grow my business? How do I grow this? How do I grow that? It's very, very important. And you have to keep doing it again.
I'll give you like my example of persistence, which is a lot of times when I've tried to reach out to people for podcasts, they've gotten back and they've said, maybe we can do it 3 months later, maybe we can do it 6 months later. And what I do is I will keep up to that date. So 3 months later, I will contact them again, or 6 months later, I will contact them again. And I will try to do it until it happens. Because obviously for me, it's not a gain for them. At the end of the day, for me, it's a learning prospect. And I'm the one who wants to learn. So that's what keeps on pushing me. Like, in fact, a funny story for the audience also. So basically, I tried to reach out to Naief back in 2019, and I sent him an Instagram DM, but then he had removed his account after that. So that back then I couldn't find a way to get in touch with him. And very, very recently in 2021, I found a way to get in touch with him. And I think it was one of the best things of me continuing to trying to find a way to reach out to you, because even we've had a conversation without this podcast, and I've learned so much from Knife that it's been amazing for me.
No, so it's pretty important, because if you give up on something, if today I want to reach a certain point, I want to get the deal, on the way there are a lot of challenges, a lot of different doors you have to go through, correct? If one
Correct.
person says no, you have to find another way. There is no logical way to say, I'm going to give up. Unless it's like hit that rock bottom and you're like, it's not possible, then obviously you have to end it. But if one door is shut, you try from the other way. And that is what is very important. And with you as well, how you reached out to me and multiple times contacted me, exactly got on in touch with me on the days I told you, you were really like, out there and you really wanted to make it happen. So same way in work, meaning you have to, like, you can't give up. You have to wake up again and try harder and harder till it happens.
I wanted to ask you this thing that being an entrepreneur, obviously you spend in a lot of time you put in a lot of time, you put in a lot of hard work. You may miss out on a lot of things. So like, what does it feel like? Do you feel really bad when you're missing out on a holiday or a party or something like that? Or do you feel low, or do you have FOMO? What happens? Like, or do you feel really good that you're just putting in the time and effort and doing something you love?
I honestly plan things. I honestly don't, meaning I'm not going to say I plan things, but I try not to miss out on anything. Always, especially being an entrepreneur yourself, you run your show, right? You're not answering to any boss. You don't have a time. You don't have to be there at one place. That's the best part. So if I want to show off tomorrow to an X country, I can do that. And my phone is what I use. Everything's on this. So all my conversation, my work, everything, and especially with COVID nowadays, everything has changed. So practically 90% of everything's all over the phone. Maybe 10% is personal meetings or going somewhere and doing things. That's just to show face now, because obviously you've not met them in such a long time, or some people like that pampering, but it's all over the phone. So I tend to not miss out on things. I do have FOMO at times if I have a meeting the next day and I have to go to a next place. Like, for example, tomorrow I may have to go somewhere, but I've got a meeting on Wednesday, but I go to that place and I have to drive back 4 hours just for that meeting and then go back again. So that's how life is.
I wanted to know, is there like something that you do to keep what do you do? Like, what is the first thought that you have when you wake up in the morning, and the last thought that you have before going to bed? Like, is there something you do or something? Because for me, I'll tell you one thing. What I have done is actually Jack Dorsey did this once. He spoke about it in his I think it was a speech or something, a commencement. And what he said was, I followed this idea. He has a list of do's and don'ts, which he reads every day, almost 3 or 4 times a day. So he writes about what does he want to do. He wants to be more patient every day. He wants to spend time into this. He doesn't want to do this every day and all. So what I have done is I've made a notes section like that of do's and don'ts, which I follow. So what do you do something like that? And what are your thoughts when you go to bed and you wake up?
I specifically just normally going to bed is I switch off by around about 9-10 o'clock. My phone's always available, but I normally switch off work-wise. So I'll watch TV and I pass out. So I don't think about the next day and such, that I'm planning whatever work situation, whatever planning has to be done. I finish that prior to bed, a while before bed. In the mornings, I do a lot of planning in terms of what I want to do and what I'm planning to do the same day, the next day, what meetings I have lined up. So I'll just make sure that I normally tend to just give everyone just dial and switch off. So I have those 5, 10, 15 phone numbers, whichever I need to dial. Instead of making notes, I do that. And then I will call them and I'll just remember, or I'll keep alarms, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I don't put notes in terms of why the alarms are there. At times I forget. I'm like, why did I keep an alarm 5 o'clock? And then I think about, I had to call this person. So, that's what I do in the mornings. And then I just chart out about I normally send out all my SMSs and messages in the morning. I'm extremely bad at replying to WhatsApp and messages. So I try to reply back to most of the people. I skim through the messages, and nowadays it's become so annoying with all these forwards and all. So I skim through the messages and then just reply to whatever I can in the morning. But mainly it's all phone calls. I finish all the calls, plan the day if I have to meet someone, because my work involves me to travel a lot. So especially within Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Thane, around the belt. So I have to plan it that way. And the people I meet, they are all last minute people. So, and if they say come at 3 o'clock, I cannot say, can you make it 4 o'clock? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think the way you say it, planning is very important in the morning part. And I'm trying to embed that into my life. Like, I started this thing where I used to like plan out everything on what tasks I need to complete and all, but then I gave up in between. But I think like looking at you, I think I want to like get back into that habit of planning out the time.
Normally planning way in advance, it's good. Like I don't see it as a bad thing. But if someone is saying, "Oh, talk to me after 5 days or 6 days," I'm like, if there is a reason to that, then it's okay. Otherwise, if someone is just acting cocky and saying, "Arey, no, I'm busy right now, 5 दिन के बाद call करो." So I don't believe in that. I believe morning में उठो, सबको call करो, कब मिलना है सर, आज मिलना है, मिल सकते हो, and that's how I plan my day.
Okay, what would be your last advice for anyone who is listening to this podcast or watching this podcast?
Uh, I am too small a person to advise anyone to uh, do anything. To be honest, I'll just say work hard. That's it. Like whatever your dreams are, work hard and just have patience. I believe in having patience and everything comes to you. If you're just too eager to do things and if you're too mujhe chahiye, mujhe chahiye, mujhe chahiye, and if you're just chasing the thing, it doesn't work. You have to chill out a little, give it time, and things always happen. There'll be a lot of roadblocks and you're like, "Arey, shit, I want to give up." Don't give up. Try again. One door closes, go to the other door. Till the time like you've exhausted all the doors, keep trying again and again. And 90% of the times it always works. That's what I feel. Like
Okay,
it
two
is
things.
difficult. Like
First,
nothing is easy, but it takes time. Everything good takes time.
no, but firstly, I think you're being very humble. Firstly, when you said that too small to give advice, but it's not true that way because you inspire so many people that it's awesome to look up to you. I feel for me, you're one of my biggest inspirations, and I think there's so much that I have learned from you. Secondly, what you spoke
Thank
about
you so
hard work
much.
and continuously, I think that is also one thing which I am trying to embed. And just this podcast with doing this podcast with you, it's like a whole learning curve for me. Like it's escalated for me because there are so many things which I have picked up from this that I want to try in my life. And I think you're not really like I love the way you're being humble, but that's not true. Like you're not a small person.
No, I am. See, I always believe in keeping a low profile now, especially with how the environment is nowadays. It's always better to stay small and stay out of trouble is what I feel. And like even with the companies, like I know you spoke about Nofiltr as well. I've always been available to the company, and I have nothing like commercially. I've obviously never been part of the company in terms of, but I've been an advisor to the company. I've been the troubleshooter, advisor, anyone who needs anything in them. It's run by a wonderful group of kids. And they now, obviously, the management again has changed and the new generation has come in. And I still am available. I speak to them almost on a daily basis and pushing them, ye karna chahiye, this is how we should do this is the meeting we should have. And some of them are partners with me in different companies, other not related to No Filter and social media, but like, uh, and I always believe in there are so many times we face these issues where everyone's like, "Arey, chhod do, let's give up." You should not do that. Just try harder, and it always works.
Yeah, I know extending is too much, but that's the best thing which I really, really liked about you. Because even when we spoke for the first time, you were still, when I asked you for certain guidance and certain advice and your thoughts and all, you were still guiding, you were willing to help and all. And I think that is one quality which I really, really love about you. And that's one thing which I will personally try to embed in my life also to always, if you're giving someone, like for you, when I've noticed is when you're giving someone your time, you give it your 100%. You're not thinking about other things
See,
while you give them their time.
you should do that. See, the reason being in terms of when you cloud your decisions and your advice with money, then you're not giving actual advice. So if you keep the financial goals and motivations on the side, and if you're an advisor to someone or if you're giving them your opinion, don't think about your gain. Think about how the person or the company is going to earn or how the company is going to gain from it. That is what I always feel. In terms of what I do at Memco, etc., that is a very different ballgame. Social media production, which I've started a new company with production where we're doing something with one of the leading OTT platforms with LA, etc. Those things are fantasy products of mine, projects, not products. Sorry. I like to do those things. Those are like fun. You get to travel, you get to meet people. That is completely different. But at Memco, what I do is like working with politicians, working with senior bureaucrats, working with corporate CEOs. It is every day you're facing blows from all sides. And they're all senior people. They're like all the biggest people you may find in across India and Maharashtra, in top politicians, top CEOs, and everyone thinks they're right. My job is to say, yes, you are right, and tell the other person also is right, and make sure both the rights connect. You get the work done, and I make my money.
Thank you so much for your
That's why
time.
you should be humble.
I think I had an amazing time talking to you. I really loved and took up a lot of things from this conversation. So thank you so much for joining in.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for being behind me to get this to happen. And love your work, and you're doing such good work, and love your interviews with all my other friends as well. I've gone through them. You've sent me, and keep it up.
Thank you so much.